All right, so let's verify this identity. What did we do first? Do you remember? Well, we have to pick a side to work, and which side did y'all pick? The left side. So, it's 5.1. Yes. So, we took cotangent to the fourth, and we rewrote that as cosine to the fourth over sine to the fourth. Plus, and we took cotangent squared, and we made that cosine squared over sine squared. And then we said we could add those fractions if we had a common denominator, right? So we said our common denominator is going to be sine to the fourth. And so this first fraction we just multiplied by a 1. And the second fraction, though, we had to multiply by a sine squared. And so that gave me cosine squared times sine squared, right?
Dude, do you just think this out every single week on your own? This is a lot of paper.
Ladies.
When is the drop date? So we're
once.
All right, so we added our numerators over our common denominator. And is that where we were? All right, so look at the numerator. What can we do to it? We can take out, they have a, right, or take out what? Cosine squared, I'm sorry, I misheard you then. All right, so both terms have a cosine squared in common, so we're going to factor that out. That leaves us with cosine squared plus sine squared. All right, so what can we do now? Well, I see some trig functions squared being added together. So maybe a Pythagorean identity in here. So what is cosine squared plus sine squared? No, it's 1 because it's on the unit circle, remember? So we have cosine squared of x times 1 over sine to the fourth of x. Now, you can move on. You got another slide down there to use. But I'm going to have to erase some of mine here. So I'm going to come back up and erase some. Y'all don't erase. Has everybody got all of that written down? Alright, so while some of y'all are playing catch up. So right now we had cosine squared of x times 1 over sine to the fourth of x. Is where we were at there at the bottom. Alright, well what's cosine squared times 1? Yeah, so this is just cosine squared over sine to the fourth. Now look at what we need. Let's think about this. We need a cotangent squared and a cosecant squared. Well, how would I get a cotangent squared? There's 2 ways. Well, there's 3 ways. One's a Pythagorean identity, but I'm looking at what I've got, and that's probably not going to go there. But I have cosines and sines. What would give me cotangent squared? Cosine squared over sine squared, right? So, well, I've already got the cosine squared on top, so let's do this. So we got cosine squared of x on top, but that sine to the fourth, I could write that as sine squared times sine squared, couldn't I? And so I can see these two right here, if I split it, is going to give me my cotangent. So I'm going to write this as cosine squared over sine squared times, I still have a sine squared on bottom, so what am I going to put on top? A 1. And so you just told me that cosine squared over sine squared is cotangent squared. What is 1 over sine squared? Cosecant squared. And isn't that what we were after? Yeah, so equals, and just bring it down. Cotangent squared, cosecant squared. And we are done.